Paris Agreement requires countries to share information on their actions to reduce greenhouse gases. As simple as this may sound, questions arise. What does it take for transparency?
Transparency is really at the core of this whole Paris Agreement. And that has several reasons, because without transparency, you don't know where you are, which country is how, which party is how on track, where we are in terms of emissions, and how to achieve emissions reductions in an effective way, in an efficient way, and in an equitable way.
So what is transparency, and how can we achieve it?
I mean, transparency to me is both openness, but it's also not just that the data are there, but it's also a critical discussion about the data. Now, as part of the Warsaw Framework for RED in 2013, countries are invited to submit their reference levels, which is to say, what will the future emissions from deforestation and forest degradation and other forest-related activities, what will these emissions be in the future? In RED, you have that the emission reduction is defined as a reference level up here minus the actual reductions that you have down here. So it's a gap between the actual emissions, say, for a given period and the reference level for that period. Numbers kind of are biased because there's not a single number. There are many numbers of there, and you can create them. It defines the payment, as I just said, but also more in general the reputation. If you're re-elected as a president, your bragging rights at the international conference, because my country can say we reduced emissions a lot.
We've also heard about how this science can be manipulated by politics in quotes. But I want to argue that not all politics are bad. Politics is about the world we live in, and we need to figure out how to engage between these worlds of politics and science.
I think from a multi-level governance perspective, one of the most important things is that we need to learn to communicate and to collaborate better across sectors, across levels, and across different types of actors. For example, scientists need to learn to communicate on MRV better with the non-scientists. There needs to be a lot more dialogue with the subnational governments. There's a lot that has to happen at the national level, but we can't get stuck at the national level. In the end, the people closer to the ground are going to be the subnational governments. Some of them are already moving ahead faster than their own countries. Indigenous territories also, and their own governments. I think these are important people to be working with at this subnational landscape or jurisdictional level.
The first challenge we have is about the national greenhouse gas reporting. And that, it's the greenhouse gas expert, and you think about RED Plus and also the capacity development that have been done as part of the readiness phase that have really targeted this part. And so in terms of transparency and some of the recommendations from our side on that, it should be seen as a great opportunity because it builds confidence and legitimacy. Transparency can actually cause initial frustrations because it might need to rethink some of the ways monitoring and assessment has been done, but in the longer term, it actually enhances quality.
Freedom of information varies from country to country.
Fight for freedom of information campaign in Indonesia, actually, why transparency is very, very important for us, because we believe that transparency is essential key to improve the forest governance to protect our remaining forests. No transparency, it is difficult for us to develop or maintain trust among the stakeholders, because I believe that to save our remaining forests, NGO cannot working alone. We need to collaborate with the government. We need to ensure that government have strong regulation to protect our forests, and then also we need to ensure that the private sector really have a strong commitment, not only on the paper, but also regarding the implementation.
So Brazil has had the data on deforestation online, available for all since 2001. We shouldn't be so scared of reference levels and what do they mean and doing analysis on it, because they're just a point, a way to see, are we making progress? As Brazil, I think we are. I mean, it's clear that we reduced deforestation a lot. Are we having difficulties now? Maybe a little bit. I mean, we are reaching a different threshold. But the important thing is deforestation has reduced a lot.
Is there a link between RED and governance or transparency? And in Ghana, I think it's very fundamental. We don't see RED as a new intervention altogether. RED is basically addressing those same drivers of deforestation. And the drivers of deforestation are mostly promoted by those governance challenges, like transparency. There is not enough information out there for local communities to determine independently what government is doing for them.
What does it take for transparency? I think it's building trust and confidence and information so that we can hold stakeholders accountable.